Today I'm going to be sowing some speciality pansies. We've got these mulberry pansies and some antique shades pansies. And then I've got some violas that I just got in a gift pack. My daughter's bought me a sort of a gift pack of all sorts of variety of different seeds I could try, and they came in these little small packets. So I'm going to sow those as well. And at the end of the video, I'm just going to show you some bonus footage of a sort of a little trick to get your pansy seeds much more cheaply, and I'll sow those as well. July is a really good month to sow pansies because it gives them a really good amount of time to establish themselves before they flower in the spring, and obviously the more established they are, the better they will survive the winter. Now in the UK they will survive a frosty winter not too badly. In other cooler zones you might have to overwinter them inside a greenhouse, but anywhere sort of now between July and September is a good time to start them for spring flowering. And the reason why it's a good time to start them now is because they like to germinate in these kind of warmer temperatures, 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is absolutely perfect at this time of year here in the UK. And as I said before, that will give them plenty of time to become mature enough plants to easily survive the winter before they start flowering in spring. Now, believe it or not, pansies are becoming more popular as a cut flower, which is another reason I really wanted to try these speciality varieties, because, you know, in the old days, back in Victorian times, pansies as a cut flower or an indoor flower were extremely popular. And for some reason, and I think it's probably due to the over-commercialisation of pansies and violas, that they've sort of fallen out of favour, and they're kind of associated with, you know, old-fashioned granny gardening. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but, you know, and I certainly had that opinion. Certainly when I was a younger woman, pansies were not something I really raced to buy or take an interest in. But strangely enough, as an artist, as I began to study art and other artists, I would notice that pansies feature a lot in Victorian art. And then I was listening to a podcast not that long ago where a lady in the US actually specialises in growing pansies and violas for cut flowers in the old-fashioned sort of Victorian way. And then I hunted down these seeds for myself. So the two varieties that I've got are this Pansy Nature Mulberry shade. So they're kind of, on the website, they're described as sort of terracotta, plum, caramel, mauve, gold. So all on that sort of very warm colour palette. It's going to be very beautiful for winter sort of warmth in the garden. But also, I'm hoping the blooms, it says it's lightly fragrant with 12 to 16 inch stems. So that's quite a long stem for a pansy when you think about the ones you get in the garden centres. So I'm hoping these will harvest well as an early cut flower, and may even be in time for Mother's Day, which in the UK is much earlier than you have it in the US. So it is, I think, specifically bred, this particular pansy, so that it can be utilised as a cut flower if required. And then the second one is the Pansy Antique shade. So they're lighter, they're slightly lighter, they're more cream, caramel, blush, less saturated colour than the mulberry shades, but they're still on the same colour palette, so they will work well together as cut flowers that go together if you are coordinating your colours. Again, they are lightly fragrant, so it's really a delight to hear that these are slightly fragrant. So we'll see how they get on. They are also on 12 to 16 inch stems, so, you know, to lengthen the stem, as with most plants, I would suggest putting them in semi-shade. They are the speciality seeds that I'm growing. Now, as you can see, I'm going to sow them in my usual way with my foil trays, not least because obviously they deter slugs, but also I can bottom water them with the bain-marie method. that I've talked about in other videos, and I'll link my video to the how you do these trays for sowing. And I just love it. It's a game changer for me, so I'll link that video below. So as you can see, the speciality seeds, as per usual, there isn't many of them. I have said in other videos how to combat the fact that you don't really get a lot of seeds when you're looking at speciality seeds. So I will also link that video. But occasionally you do just want to try something speciality, and that's what I'm doing here. I really hope I can bring these. My big problem with growing speciality seeds when there are so few is that, you know, if I get busy 1 to 2 days and I forget to water, that's it, they're gone. So, and that is a real problem for me because that does happen. So putting them in the bain-marie is going to help me combat that to some degree. Now, that doesn't mean they want to be sitting in water. It just means that they can be gently watered from the bottom. So don't have the bottom tray full of water that they're just sitting in. You need to just fill it up. Anything that isn't sucked up within sort of 20 minutes, just dump out that bit of water, and then you can water them again the next day. If you're going to be away for a day or you're not going to be able to water them, you probably could leave a little bit of extra water in there so that they can self-water through a dry period. Now, the other thing is, what I do is I've got my soil, so my compost is not quite 50-50, but there's quite a lot of builder's sand in this compost that I'm using to keep the soil open and well draining. So you keep it open so that the little fine delicate roots can work their way into the soil, and the soil doesn't just become a sort of a concrete block. And that sand also not only helps the roots, but it also drains the water so that they're not sitting in puddles of water and rotting away. Now, you can, of course, put vermiculite on top. I didn't bother. I just like to spread them around with my fingers because they're so small, the seeds, and there were so few. You know, you can see here I dumped them and they kind of clustered together. So all I will do in that case is just use my fingers to smush them around so that they are in good contact with the compost, nice and wet, good contact, but also spread around. I'm not going to use vermiculite. I personally don't like using things that aren't absolutely necessary in the garden for lots of reasons. One, it keeps the costs down, and two, it's just an environmental resource I don't need. You know, I don't want to be contributing to any unnecessary harm to the environment by buying factory produced things that you don't even need. If you think about it, in Victorian times, did they go in the old days when they were growing their pansies and violas to the garden centre and buy vermiculite? No, they did not. So if they could do without them, I think I can do without them. So that's my theory on it. If I end up eating my words, I'll eat my words and I'll let you know. But I don't use anything like that. If I really particularly wanted to keep seeds dry or more slugs off them, sometimes I will put a layer of the sand that I used in the compost over the surface, but I haven't done in this particular episode, in this particular instance. So I've sowed the seeds, and then I'm just going to put them in the greenhouse. I did wet the compost before I sowed the seeds. I should have said that. So the compost was already well watered. Then I put the tray underneath, of course, and I put them in the greenhouse where I'm going to monitor them with my other seeds. It's not that they need to be in the greenhouse. They don't. It's going to be warm enough. Although I say that, it has been an unusually cool, damp year. It just really has. But as I say, I'm putting them there to keep them away from the slugs. And also just having all your seedlings in one place means you're not going to forget. So having them all in one place, as you can see, I've got sunflowers and zinnias and all sorts here. That means I'm less likely to forget them. All right, so as you can see, that was quite a mean amount of seeds I had there. So let's go and have a look at some violas I had from last year, and I'll show you the seeds you can collect. So if you have had violas, if you bought any pansies or violas from the garden centre, now is the time, a good time to collect the seeds. So some of them will just burst open and they will have already self-seeded, and some of them you might still be able to catch them in time to harvest them. So such as these here. And as you can see, they're just, the head of the flower is dried and it kind of opens and the seeds cling inside the kind of the pod. And then I'm just going to sprinkle these where I sowed my generic violas that I got in the other packet, and we'll just see what comes up. I perhaps should have done a separate one to see how well the ones I harvested from the garden came up. I probably should have done that, but never mind, I didn't. So there you go. So if you have pansies and violas from last, you know, that you bought maybe this spring from the garden centre, then go and have a look and see if you can collect seeds. You don't necessarily need to run out and go and buy a packet. Have a practice with some harvested seeds, see how you get on, and then next year maybe, if you really fancy it, you can sort of invest in some fancy seeds. But there you go, that's it. That's what I suggest you sow. Now, I can't wait. I really hope these come up well, because if they do, I'm definitely going to be investing in more seeds, because I think they will just make such a lovely early cut flower for the house garden and for Mother's Day, if the timing is right. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, obviously please don't forget to subscribe, like and share with your like-minded gardening friends, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!